Herbert and Askren, two of the best guys in the country. Probably whoever wins the national title at that weight that year is going to win the Hodge. Both of them with pin after pin, and you follow the stat line. This guy got a pin, now the other guy's getting a pin. Crazy wrestling, but just dominating.
Ben really didn't have that many close matches. His junior year, it kind of came to another level where he started just smashing everyone. Then you have Jake Herbert, who was kind of a younger phenom, and he was, coming along and he was crushing people and putting people away.
Everybody in Vegas had the betting going. You would bet on the physique and the body, because Ben just, had the puffy hair. He had no muscles.
These are the top dogs in the wrestling. You got Jake Herbert, who's, big and strong, and you got Ben, who's, just kind of stands there. He's not really too intimidating looking,
He's going to come in there and, the old Big Ten style, the brawler, going to snap your head off, going to push the pace and this and that.
There's going to be a clash. There's going to be a showdown at the end.
It was the build-up, and it was exciting.
It was the one weight class that year that everyone was like, who's going to win?
We're rolling.
Ben, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, dude. When did the name The Funk, when do you remember that coming about?
You are the #1 guy that I'm most disappointed never fought in the UFC.
He was special. I think he knew he was special, and I don't think he really thought he had to prove anything to anybody.
Ben's personality and his persona, it matches his wrestling style. It's different, it's weird, it's unique.
Big Dash, he ran around like a chicken.
Because one of the things that I think gives Ben an edge is that he doesn't look the part.
Literally, guys would come out all jacked up, laughing at him because he had this, build with love handles hanging over his singlet, and he didn't have a lot of big muscles. And I'd look and I'd see the guy laughing, and I'm like, oh, this dude's gonna get crushed right now.
It's hard to put a core essence of funk into it, or how you use it, or what you do.
These things that Ben was doing was different. It was a hangly mess.
Oh, that was weird. He just rolled through his back to do that? Come on.
I would tell people in the stands, because he'd be losing 4-0 going into the third. And I'm like, the stage is set, watch this. And they're like, what do you mean? 14-4.
He's one of the few wrestlers that I've coached that was 2 or 3 moves ahead of his opponent all the time.
You get these old guys that are talking about he's setting wrestling back. No way, it's advanced wrestling. It's pushed it forward.
The funk from Ben Askren really evolved into, we got no choice, we got to do a little bit of it.
People weren't going to be like, hey, I'm not going to scramble. That's like saying gravity doesn't exist. They're just saying, hey, let's make this a bigger part of our wrestling game. It's no longer funk, it's science.
The man with the worst haircut in all of wrestling, Ben Funky Askren.
His wrestling was a little different, his hair was a little different. As long as it's legal, I like people being a little different.
Yep, so I go to start pulling here, and he starts sitting up on me. Okay, so #1, we push the chin. Okay, #2, keep sitting up Peyton. So instead of staying here, because if Peyton catches this arm, I'm just gonna be done, A lot of times he'll catch a headlock here, and then you go around the head, yeah, boom, like that. I see you do this to people, okay? So what I need to do is slide this underneath here, right now, as the weight comes forward, I'm gonna bump, and slide back to that back door. Okay. Well, when I first started wrestling, I was definitely no good. The same concept. If you're on your feet and they're, I want to say I didn't win a match for my first 2, first grade and second grade. I don't think I won a match. And I remember at some point saying, I don't want to be fat anymore, And I think part of it was, hey, I was getting made fun of, but also I realized wrestling success-wise, weight does matter.
Ben was the short, chunky kid that used to fight me for a whole Jack's self-rising pizza. He was probably the grittiest kid that never won.
I was having less success because some of these kids were strong at 130 pounds and I was fat at 130 pounds. My big thing in high school was I never took any time off. It was I was working out 7 days a week and most likely wrestling most of those 7 days. I went from 130 pounds to 100 pounds, and that was kind of a big changing point in my life, and then starting to have slightly more success and taking the sport more seriously. I loved the self-sufficiency that wrestling provided me, that I put in effort and I saw results from that effort.
I also remember us getting a wrestling mat. It was on the other side of the basement. That's when Ben really started getting into wrestling, taking it very seriously, kicking my ass all the time, even though I didn't want to wrestle with him.
He'd be in practice, and most people he'd be working with really couldn't deal with him, and so he would let people get close to scoring on him. And that, kind of him finding a challenge, he would often let people get into positions where they're just about to score, and then he'd work on getting out of it.
I guess I'm scrambling before I know what scrambling is. I'm just not trying to let the guy score on me after letting them get in deep. At that age, that's getting me a really in-depth understanding of the sport of wrestling. This could be my future profession after I quit fighting. I could do hairstyle. What do you think, Alex?
No,
definitely
not.
Definitely not? Why not? Because mommy's way better than daddy at doing hair? I'm almost done, Alex. I'm sorry. We are 17 days out from my retirement fight. I leave for Asia on Thursday. And so right now I'm just making final preparations. We gotta lay this thing out. So I'll do the squares and you do the triangles. I've alleged I'm the best in the world forever, but I've never gotten to prove it, right? And no fault of my own. All right, what do you want to make? Rocket? Do you want to make the rocket?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone wants to know, where do I stack up against those other guys? Where do I stack up against GSP or Tyron Woodley or Rory McDonald? One more. I'm gonna put one on top to hold this together. So where exactly do I belong? How good am I, right? I could be the best, but most fans don't know. So it's gonna be really interesting how I'm remembered.
Look at this.
Look at this rocket.
I can honestly say I've never met anybody with the confidence that Ben has. And at first, it could be taken as being really cocky or egotistical. He never questioned anything he did, and if he said he was gonna do something, he just said it matter of fact, even if it was something crazy that you were like, how are you gonna do that? How are you gonna make that happen?
Oh, you got matching hands. Here you go, Alex. And I can't do exactly what people want. I have to be myself. I have to be me. I can't be what someone else wants me to be. I can't say what someone else wants me to say. I just have to be genuine. And so I know if I would have signed a UFC contract, I would have had some serious personality classes, some serious issues. Even if I was winning, and even if I was selling pay-per-views, which I think I would do, even if I was good, I just still wouldn't be able to match up with Dana. It would have caused issues.
My first year at Arrowhead High School was Ben's freshman year, and I had him in science class. Think back and reflect on that time and how he was just really quiet, and he had really, really short hair. I don't think he wanted curls at all, so he had it cut super short, so it was just straight, but he was just really quiet and focused and didn't really talk a lot. And then we got to the mats, and that's when things changed a lot more then.
He's always been one that's really enjoyed stirring a pot. He was very into Muhammad Ali, who would always talk about things and kind of get into people's head and chirp.
Wins the state title, and then one thing I really remember was afterwards, a reporter came up to me and he said, "So, Coach Messenbrink, what do you think of the cyber battle? Or what do you think about the cyber battle that was going on with Ben?" And I didn't really know what on earth this person was talking about. I had no clue. There was an opponent of Ben's who was the top-ranked senior. Ben and him had been on some wrestling message boards going bantering back and forth, and he was saying he was going to crush Ben, and Ben was saying he was going to tech him or pin him or whatever.
I kind of played into it. What can I say or do to make people more upset at me?
When he started talking, and I think that was really the beginning of him coming out of his shell.
People freaking hated me.
At that point, they kind of fueled the fire. So then the next year, it's he's running around with chickens and doing all this other stuff, putting his X's on the mat, raising to pin somebody.
At the biggest in-season tournament, I had this like trench coat, hat, glasses. I walked out to the finals, put my headgear on, and I went on deck ball this kid 16-0. Believe me, that pissed people off.
Ben grew his hair long probably junior year, maybe going into the state tournament. He had started to have his hair started puffing out from his headgear.
Oh, they hated my hair, so I probably continued to grow my hair out more because it pissed people off than anything.
I was just like, I didn't want it in his face. I wanted to make sure he could see and perform. I didn't really care if his hair was long or what. It wasn't so long that he had to have a cap on or anything. So I didn't really care what his hair looked like. It didn't really matter.
It's effing hair. It's on my head. Like, who cares? I'm not cutting my hair. I'm not gonna do it to make people happy. When you're saying I have to now act a certain way to implicate that I am in fact taking this seriously and it's not a joke, that's bullcrap. I wasn't crossing the line. I wasn't doing anything morally reprehensible. I was a kid having fun, enjoying a sport I loved, and having a blast doing it. There's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Good, Weston, nice. Nice, Keegan. Boom, there we go, okay? Another option to get my arm free. I bounce and switch to underhook, and then I pull out. So I go here, switch to underhook, bounce that way. As that bounces down, same thing, slip it out, transition back to mantis. I really like those two options. Let's try it, 1, 2, 3. Now in my junior year, I do realize, hey, I really want to go to college and be successful in college and beyond that. But July 1 hits, which is the first day college coaches can call you, and I did not get one phone call. When I started the other antics, I think it did rub a few college coaches the wrong way.
We had videotaped a lot of his matches, and we took all these videos and had the VHS and like did the recording and put together clips early where he's doing lots of takedowns. It's just head inside single, boom, head inside, fake one side, get the other, snap them, go get the single.
And I think with the takedown style that I had in high school, a lot of people said I couldn't mat wrestle. A lot of people didn't think I would have success on the next level. Maybe it was because they didn't like me, or maybe it was because that was what they really thought.
Whatever they were seeing, they didn't think it was going to translate into great success later.
But that was pretty depressing for me. I wanted to be great at wrestling. I wanted to work hard, and any college coach who took 30 minutes to get to know me would have realized that really quickly. We're up here on top of Marina Bay Sands. Singapore, this is one of the most fantastic views on planet Earth. Got all these crazy looking buildings. Got the bay down here. Man, it's fantastic up here.
Why are we here, more importantly, all together?
We're here because I'm going to fight on Friday. That's why we're here. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be my retirement fight, so it'll be the last time you see me in the cage. Right now we're going to Evolve. We're walking through, this is Tanjong Pagar, brand new, it's actually a train station underneath us. That's what this is all about. Got my friends in town. I've been by myself for like 6 days straight, so make that like 10 days. So it's nice to have a bunch of friends here to go work out with and talk and get all that stuff done. What's up? This is Evolve. We got Papa right here. Papa's the man. This is Tuesday night, so I got my first weigh-in tomorrow. Remember, with the One Championship, they do the weigh-ins where you got to weigh in and be hydrated at the same time. So I'm on weight. I'm all good. I'm just gonna get a nice little light workout in today. Nothing too strenuous. It's fight week. A lot of people freak out about fight week. It's like, listen, if you don't got your shit together now, you're not gonna have it together. Just deal with it, right? So me, I want to get a sweat. I want to feel good, and that's about it.
What up, man? Go, Ben. Go, Ben.
He has known for a while that this is kind of the time he wanted to retire, and he seemed so excited to just focus on wrestling and coaching.
My goal has been to be the best in the world for the last decade plus at what I was doing. So it hasn't really hit me that that's going to be done. Since I can remember, my thought process is on what do I need to do today to be the best I can be at wrestling or at MMA, right? And that's been my total thought process, and now I'm not going to have that. It's going to be a really, really interesting feeling.
I know Ben still has competition left in him, but I know that he can use that in so many other ways.
12 minutes. I hope when I walk into the cage on November 24th, it doesn't feel any different, because that would be bad, because the key to a successful performance is creating that consistency where you're doing the exact same thing every time. And there's so many externalities that don't matter. It doesn't matter that it's your last fight. It doesn't matter that the other guy's really strong. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you execute on what you need to do to win, right? And so the fact that it's my last fight has absolutely no bearing on my ability to win that fight or what I need to do to win that fight. So I hope I'm not thinking about it at all. Because if I'm thinking about, oh my God, this is my last fight, my mind's not where it needs to be in order to be as successful as possible.
So the recruiting process with Ben started with, we needed a 74-pounder in a few years. And I remember going through the rankings, I don't know what the ranking, from Amateur Wrestling News or something, going down the list. And he was probably 5th, 6th, 7th down the list. And calling his high school, and then getting his high school coach, John Messenbrink, called me back, and we started having a conversation, pretty positive, and he said he would get me a videotape. I remember taking the videotape to a home in like Wichita. We used to do satellite camps all over. And I remember getting to this house, we were staying in a house, and Bart Horton and Lee Pritz were waiting there for me, and I said, I gotta show you this. We threw the VCR tape in, and I said, this kid's off the charts, great. Just look at him, look at all the stuff he's doing, and look at how he's going into so many levels of wrestling. And I remember them watching and, man, we gotta get this kid.
The one thing I think may have stood out on that to some people may be the ease at which he was doing things, right? It was like really basic stuff, but it was just like, just smooth and fluid and really easy and never wearing out.
And I remember being at the Junior Nationals, and we had just visited his dad, made the offer the night before, and he goes out and he beats Troy Letters, who's a year ahead of him, who was like the #1 recruit in the country. I remember watching like 8 Big Ten coaches lining up with his family, and Bart Horton sitting to my right going, oh, there goes our secret, there goes our guy. And when people were recruiting Ben and saying, don't go to Missouri because they've never had a champ, they've never had the Olympian, I was using the same approach, but say, come to Missouri and be that first.
I did like the fact that Missouri hadn't done anything, and I had the chance to be part of something special, something that had never been done before. So I did like that kind of thought process of building something new.
And that appealed to Ben's personality. He wanted to be the Pied Piper, that guy that leads the program into the new era. I looked at him as that guy that could be that breakthrough kid.
There's a story Ben Askren told at his Mizzou Hall of Fame induction ceremony. A story of a kid who loved Mizzou and wanted to come here, but was told he'd never win at all at that place. That kid was Ben Askren himself, and he proved those detractors wrong.
You know, there's no more recruits that have to come to the University of Missouri and say, God, that's an awesome place, but can I win there?
Ben's first year probably thought about quitting at days, because in the room, he struggled.
Strength and speed, which are the general characteristics people think of when they think of athleticism, were never my forte.
In the weight room, it was a disaster. The bar with 245s, you know, with 145 on each side, I don't even know if he could do that.
We had a preseason routine where we did a lot of running and lifting in stadiums, and I can't say there's anything to this day that I've hated more in my life.
Running was a complete disaster. He was slow as molasses. Last guy picked in every, sporting game we played. If it was football, he was always last pick. Sometimes nobody would pick him. He would say, it takes me 80 minutes to run the 7 miles, whatever, coach. Can I just go wrestle for 80 minutes? I will wrestle hard for 80 minutes. I'd be like, man, you're running today. And he went, all right.
I heard he was getting his ass whipped all the time. The one story that I remember hearing especially was that it was like up in the Hearns, you would climb ropes at the end of practice.
He was in tears on the rope, just could only climb halfway and got stuck on the rope.
I couldn't climb, I couldn't go any higher.
And he was so embarrassed that he couldn't get up that he just hung there for a really, really long time.
I was too effing stubborn to come down, so I was just hanging there, and everyone's like, oh, are you gonna go any farther up? And I didn't want to say well, I can't. I think I still have dread when I climb ropes to this day about that moment.
So it was partially embarrassing to him that he was not strong.
The lack of strength and speed definitely was a concern in my mind. It was definitely something I was, I guess you'd say, self-conscious about. When you're not a great athlete in the traditional sense, and you're a little bit behind everyone, and then you go to University of Missouri and it's Division I college athletics, and now you're not a little behind everyone, you're way behind everyone.
His freshman year when he redshirted, he had 8 or 9 losses, maybe 10 losses that year.
I'm not losing to national champs and All-Americans, I'm losing to freaking scrubby dudes. Maybe I wasn't 5th string the whole first semester. I definitely wasn't 1st string.
And there was a guy that was a 2-time All-American Forest runner-up in the country that was older than him when he came in as a true freshman and literally would try to almost kill him on the mat, was cradling him and ripping him, and Ben would fight. There were tears. He would sit in the corner and cry and just upset and not thinking it's getting better. Trying to tell him to stay the course, that you're gonna get stronger, you're gonna develop, you're gonna mature.
Definitely had some breakdown moments where it's like, am I going to be able to do the things I want to do? I want to achieve really lofty things, and I don't know that I'm going to get there anymore. I don't know that I have the capability to get where I want to get. All right. Appreciate you guys having me. I'm excited. My career with one championship started here in Singapore in May of 2014, so I guess it's only fitting that it's going to end here in the home of one championship in November of 2017. I've been looking towards this moment for many years now, kind of the retirement of my career. Obviously, every step along the way, it's went really well. I've won every single fight. And in 2017, it's been extraordinarily spectacular because not only have I not lost, I haven't even been punched one time in about 12 minutes. Okay? So, obviously, I respect Shunya as a competitor, and I appreciate the fact that he wants to kill me because I would expect nothing less than his best on Friday night. But I'm going to go out there and I'm going to execute, and I plan on having the same amount of domination that I have in my last 17 fights, ending my career on a huge high note, and giving the fans of Singapore something to cheer about. Thank you, guys. Yeah, he's funny. He caught me off guard with the whole, he was running the I'm scared, I don't want to get killed bit. But who knows, maybe it's like playing possum, right? I'm not falling for that. I'm not falling for it. I'm bringing my A game regardless of what he says. What's up, my Filipino fans? I fought Manila a few times. Hope you guys tune in on Friday night. Hope you're excited. Hope you guys are cheering for me. And hopefully I'll be back in Manila before too long. My redshirt year, the problem is winning. When you lose 10 times in 5 weeks or 6 weeks, that sucks. So that's a huge oh crap, what do I do now? How do I change this?
I never thought Ben Askren would fail, honestly, because of his work ethic. From knowing his weaknesses, he developed his strengths. He would get plowed over by a Raymond Jordan, but he would learn how to scramble from there.
I don't know if Ben ever said, this is the way I'm going to wrestle, or he fell into it because he's trying to find ways to win. I got to do some things differently. Maybe I'm not as quick on my feet, if people are getting to my legs easy. What am I going to do?
Ben is a thinker. If I said, man, you got to run through walls for me, he would say, no. If there's a door, I would walk through it. I would figure out how to open it.
I think a lot of creative wrestling comes from that drive of winning. We find ways to win.
I had to figure out how to win because working hard wasn't getting me there fast enough. Everyone was working hard, so I had to find new and creative ways to get that done.
You ready? I'm ready.
Can we slap you in the face?
Nope.
Sure?
I'm awake. I'm ready.
There we go.
Smack!
What was that?
No idea.
How'd you get that? You don't know?
I have no clue.
I think you split the legs. Kicked through the middle.
Yeah.
Mike Ironman's probably one of the most passionate people I've met about the sport of wrestling.
Trap me in. Trap me in with your feet. Like, yeah.
He's always brought quite a bit of vibrancy to the different things that he's done.
So if we're here, boom, right there, right. When I was in college, I was still real funky because I didn't have a good sprawl. You know, I didn't have some of the good fundamentals yet. And so when they would get to my legs, I would continue to wrestle. You know what I mean? And try things. And you know what I mean? And that's kind of how these little techniques were developed. You're gonna hit it, shuffle, shuffle, and as soon as you catch that leg, you catch it, you're going to his back.
In the room, he was always, I don't know, it was almost like he was always thinking about scoring and always thinking about doing something that was just a little bit tricky and this and that.
Ironman wrestled the kid from Cornell that when he was at Nebraska, and it was at Cornell, and that match I think was like 20-18. And I just remember going, what the heck are these guys doing? They were in scramble upon scramble, back points, escapes, and takedown. It was the craziest match.
Yeah, they come in about an hour and a half early. This is playtime for them. They like being out here.
He's just so into what he's doing at the time. And so like I remember like there was times where I'd go out and he ran a youth club and he'd be like, all right, practice starts at 6. So I'd show up at like 5:50. And they were already like in a full-blown sweat and like wrestling. Like, oh, hey, we just started going. I was so excited about this and that he was just like, they were going.
He's lying. He's gonna break out of this and bite my ear off.
I first met Ben his freshman year here at Mizzou, University of Missouri. When he was a redshirt freshman, I came here and started helping out like as a volunteer assistant here.
One of the things that, if you're around college programs that redshirt freshmen do is they help the guys who are older train. The redshirts are kind of like, hey, you're not really doing anything important for the team. Why don't you go help that guy work out? Mike said, hey, I need someone to work out with. I said, I'm game.
He was really smart, really intelligent, knew what he wanted. You know, he was all serious, it was all business, and I noticed something right away. I don't look at it as he was struggling. I just look at it as the guys in the room. There was a lot of good guys in the room at the time, and they were taking him down with some double legs, and explosion, getting him up, getting his feet off the ground, little things like that.
Every day after practice, the two of them would stay, and Ben would go that extra go, and it would sometimes be 20, 30, 40 minutes of live wrestling.
He just didn't want to stop, you know what I mean? And so me and Lee Pritz, Brian Smith, we would kind of just, me and Ben would be in the middle wrestling, and they'd be on the side just kind of watching us kind of going at it.
Other guys had already left and be showered, and some guys would pop back up, and who's still in there? Oh, that's Ben and Mike, they're still going, and they would be scrapping and scrambling, and it would be unbelievable goes.
I was wrestling kind of in the positions he was good at, and I was trying to pick up on what he was doing because there was obviously some things he was doing really, really, really well.
When I first started wrestling with him and all that stuff, it was different. You know what I mean? The way he wrestled, the way he thought, cunning, he was real smart.
I was a student of the sport. I wanted to know what worked, and so for me, it was like when Mike showed me those things, it was like, wow, this is a cool new trick. Wow, this is something I could probably use. When I found something that worked, I used it, and I tried to make it better. And if I found someone that worked better, I'm not stubborn, that's gone. See ya, I'm done with that, right? This is better, I'm gonna use this now.
Right? So you come here, I like that toe because my toe's not up.
A lot of people drill, and when they drill on A and B. Like say I'm shooting a high crotch, that's A. My opponent's drilling B, which is a sprawl. And that's it. What we were doing is we were drilling A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 8, and so we were going deeper.
So now I figure out, well, when they do this, I gotta build a counter for that. And when they do this, I gotta build a counter for that.
Seeing him when in his play wrestling and working things and doing things, he was in shape, he could wrestle for hours. But he was developing that second and third and fourth attack.
we started learning different techniques, and not that we came up with them, they probably already been here. We definitely were coming up with things that we thought were originals. Like, this is different, this is unique.
When I first learned these scrambles, it definitely wasn't like, this is gonna be something. This is gonna be scrambling.
It's just really wrestling through positions, knowing that the guy does this, I can do this. Yes, you're passing ankles and you're coming out underneath and people diving and underneath, and you would say, Coach, you know how I do this and this, and the guy does this? Well, I was figuring out if I can do this next move, look at this. And you'd be like, that can't work. And I'd have to get down and I'd be, dang, it does work. And we'd start playing around with it. And hey, so-and-so, get over here, play with this.
People call it funk or scrambling. I call it wrestling. It's just that simple. It's just, they don't know what it is, so they gotta call it something. So they're here, they're pulling me in, and they got me. They're posted, their hand, they're coming up. I trap it. Trap the hand, or the arm that's posted. Now I fall off the side that I have the arm. Rotating all the way through. Let go halfway through, hit the arm. Come over to your pin.
It just seems like such crap.
Right. Somebody would see that and be like, yeah, right. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
Then you start doing it.
Shit.
So in 2003, when I'm kind of first trying these techniques, no one knows what to do. I start realizing, well, when I do this, a lot of people are really struggling against it. So what do you do then? You do it more, right?
Ben still was kind of that villain in college because he would talk to people, so he had some people that didn't always think the best of him. They thought he was arrogant, cocky, or he's doing this stupid wrestling, this spaghetti wrestling, or whatever they would have names for it.
There's always naysayers if you're gonna change something or try to evolve something or just tweak it a little bit. And so even people around here, that were close to us were like, you need to stop teaching that, you need to show them this. I've heard it so many times, like, that stuff won't work, and I'm like, what, wrestling won't?
Is there something about developing something on your own, the way you developed low single and him developing this on his, rather than being taught it?
I think when you think of Ben Askren in his development with funk, I can just tell you this, I'm sure some of his most exciting times, and he's never told me this, was in the room and he's doing things unconventional. He's putting a foot over his face and pulling it over. He's on his back, and he's just doing things that, like, it's no whistle start and doing set out turn ins or switches, traditional things that win a lot of matches. This was stuff that he just was going, hey, this feels good.
I had these people wrestling in my head. They didn't have singlets on, they didn't really have like bodies, they were just figures. I'm sitting in class, they're wrestling in my head. I'm on a date with a girl, they're wrestling in my head. I'm eating dinner, they're wrestling in my head. All I was really thinking about at that point in my life was wrestling, and that was it, specifically wrestling techniques and scrambling. A lot of times they'd be wrestling in situations where I was struggling with, right? Where I was trying to look for an answer, they'd be wrestling there. And then if it was good enough, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna try that practice today. And then some days it would work. And so I told Rick McGuire, who's a prominent sports psychologist, I told him this. He says, do you think anyone else has ever had this happen to them? I said, well, shit, if anyone's had it happen to him, it's John Smith. So I remember I asked John Smith, I said, John, I got these people wrestling on my head. They're kind of like telling me what to do or showing me what to do. So did you ever have that happen to you?
When you're in a process of developing and on the verge of doing some things that are different, yeah, those things can happen. Whether it be him wrestling someone in his head or whether he's watching two guys wrestle in his head. The guy he wanted to win, he always came out on top in some funk. That visualization, seeing things happen, it's kind of like studying a little bit,
And he said, I did have those people wrestling in my head, Ben, but as soon as I became a coach, they went away. Sure enough for me is, as soon as I became a coach and had real world responsibilities, they're gone. They don't visit anymore, right? If you watch film from my freshman and sophomore year, where obviously I had success, I made the national finals both years, but if you specifically watch the scrambling techniques, they're very rudimentary. They're things I don't really do too often anymore. So I would say the scrambling was working its way into the matches my freshman and sophomore year. I just was not really good at it.
When Ben was, especially his freshman and sophomore years, I'll say this, we needed an athlete to beat him. Chris Pendleton was a great athlete.
He wrestled smart, he wrestled clever. You know what I mean? He knew that, hey, I don't want to get to certain positions with him. It's kind of like, don't play with fire.
We just saw a lot of things that was not traditional. It seemed like things you could coach against, like we can beat this. Strategy was to stay above his knees, and you got to recognize he can still beat you there if you're not finishing strong and hard.
At that time, Pendleton had a better game plan, and Ben was just a little bit behind maybe on the explosiveness and the strength, but that was coming.
As far as Pendleton's ability to adjust and figure things out and wrestle in positions where he knew he was safe is pretty astounding to me.
In the end, I'm just telling you, it took everything Chris had.
What people don't see in those 2 losses, the first 2 years that I had to sit with a young man who sat and bawled like a baby. The tears and, their noses running, and they just, for an hour straight, we couldn't get them to the media room to meet with media. And just how he truly never thought it was possible for him to lose either one of those matches.
When Ben puts himself into something, he puts all of himself, and I think he expects that much out of it as well. So when things don't go how he expects, I think it's a shock.
It was unbelievable to me how focused and determined, and there was no doubt in his mind he was going to win, and when it did happen, it was like death to him.
This guy's got a will to win. He's very creative of what he's doing, and when he goes, he goes. He doesn't question it, he hits, and it may not be traditional, okay, but when he does it, he's doing it to score, and he ain't stopping until he ends up on top. That's what you got to be.
Me and Coach Smith at Missouri and Bart Horton, Lee Pritz, a couple other guys, we kind of knew. We were starting to talk and be like, wow, this kid's, this is unique here. There was a storm brewing and it was coming, you know what I mean? And it was in him.
They say you shouldn't take your work home with you. Well, try telling that to Missouri's undefeated 174-pound wrestler, Ben Askren. He has a wrestling room in his house.
But the other day he had a flood. His plumbing kind of went bad, and he called me. He said, "Coach, I can't make it to practice." I'm like, "What for?" "Well, I got flooding going on. I just can't leave the house right now. Send some guys to work out in the basement with me." So I sent some guys down.
Whether at home or on campus, for the last 8 years of his life, Askren wrestles every day. Call him an Iron Man on the mat.
An apple a day, he's wrestling a day. He needs it wrestling every day. That's Ben.
I would say my junior year and kind of after my sophomore year to going into my junior year is where I'm really starting to realize that I'm super unorthodox, and I'm really starting to deeply figure out some of these positions, both offensively and defensively. And that's something people don't take into account is if I shoot a high crotch and someone tries to scramble, I gotta know how to scramble back.
He just did it every day in the practice room. He would say, "Watch, Pell's gonna do this to me and this and that, and I'm gonna go to here, and he's gonna do this, and but he could predict. He was like a director of a show. He was planning out the scenes before they happened because he practiced that way.
The key to all this as I grow is evolve. As you have success, people will pay attention to what you're doing, right? And they'll say, well, when I do this, he does that, so this is how I'm gonna counter that. And if you don't evolve past that, you get beat, right? I would say, a lot of outside people thought I was just rolling around and getting lucky, which is a very stupid, simplistic way to think about what I was doing. Like, you don't get lucky 87 times in a row.
Every single person that wrestles knows how to sprawl and step ahead. Very, very few people know how to stop far ankle. So if you start getting into positions where people don't understand and people can't comprehend and they haven't thought it out, they haven't been there thousands of times, you're gonna end up beating people with very little effort.
Well, that's what made Ben so great at what he did in wrestling, was he studied the position so well. He knew what to do when you got to his leg, when he got there. He knew 15, 16 different options, and then he knew the situations that are continue to happen from there.
The double ankle scramble then became the far ankle scramble, because the far ankle is the only one that's actually relevant to the situation, right? So if he shoots at me, I grab far ankle, I fall far side. The first scramble is for me to bump in, knock him over, and take him down.
I think it looks like two people are dancing.
Once the other person knows what he's doing, as I grab his ankle, he's going to start turning his hips into me to kick that away, because that'll make me release the ankle.
Ben would definitely set you up in matches where, I mean, he would give up a takedown.
Step 3 for me, as he goes to turn, I switch to a crotch lock. Step 4 for him is to scoot his ass out of the lock, throw a half Nelson and pin me, so that's step 4.
He knew from that he would just keep wrestling. Next thing you know, he was tripoding and grabbing the wrist and getting heavy on the guy.
I'm the crotch lock person, then to belly down so he can't sink his half Nelson. Step 6 for the offensive guy would then be to hip up, to which I would be in now a back hook position. Step 6B for me would be wait for him to throw the arm around.
They're reacting light speed on those positions that deep into wrestling.
If he then goes in a back hook situation, now we're in back hook defense.
It's like a chess match, and your brain's like a computer, and it's got to pick up these things right now and be able to adapt, adjust.
He could then try to kick over and elevate, or he could fall off to the side, grab far ankle back on me, and we'll be back in the far ankle scramble.
He's sitting through, he's splitting, and then you're going to your back maybe, and you got to let go of the leg. You let go of the leg, you're going to give up the takedown. Now he's riding you.
Step 8 would then be for me as the backup person to either A, elevate him, or B, block low Peterson, or C, dive the arms through, run my hips over, Peterson him that way. Where we're going 8, 9, 10 steps deep, most other people are like, well, if he grabs my ankle, what do I do again? Now I'm 6, 7 steps down the board, right? I'm playing chess. A lot of these other guys are playing checkers.
Ready? Can I get a 1, 2, 3 from you real fast?
1, 2, 3. Eins, zwei,
Just making
drei.
sure we're all
Uno,
good.
dos, tres. Un, deux, trois. Yeah, I can count the 3 in like 9 languages.
Russia.
I can't remember that anymore. So when you think wrestling, you think, you know, what I am, jacked, beautiful, you know, tough looking. You look at Ben, you don't see many of that. You know, you don't see the jackedness. You look at that guy, he's very unassuming.
Literally, guys would come out all jacked up, laughing at him because he had this, you know, build with love handles hanging over his singlet.
Jake Herbert is the guy that did like 10,000 pull-ups or something like that before his world championship. He's definitely a Herculean, God figure-like, you know, he's a powerful guy.
I was at 174 pounds. Ben was at 174 pounds. And a guy by the name of Mark Perry jumped up to 174 pounds. It was the 3 of us. We were all the 3 front runners. That was it.
These guys were being billed as the next big things that are going to take me out.
You look at Herbert and all his matches and his highlights, and it's just like a physically imposing beast, just a monster. He's crushing guys with cradles and stuff too, kind of just having his way through the season.
He's explosive. He's gonna snap you through the mat.
Stereotypical Big Ten smash, tight, real powerful.
Can brawl, can bang all day, you know what I mean? Can just fight and can get on your head. In my opinion, kind of a stale, stagnant way of wrestling.
I really distinctly remember talking on the phone to Chris Pendleton because we were trying to get him to come out and for like a week even to train with me, because if anybody has the kryptonite to Ben Askren's funk, it's Chris Pendleton. In my mind, probably the best thing to do would be to slow him down and not get in scramble positions, but I was like, this is the NCAA finals. I'm there. If I'm going to beat him, I'm going to out-wrestle him. The better wrestler is going to walk away.
Wrestle with me as little as possible. Try to make as little contact as possible. Try not to attack. Hope the ref doesn't call stalling. In 2006 and 7, that was how you beat Ben Askren. That was the only way you beat me.
They didn't meet up during the season. So of course, leading into the national tournament, people are talking about this in the match, and of course they're the 1 and 2 seeds, and it was exciting because both wrestlers, people love to watch them wrestle. It was Dake Taylor before there was Dake Taylor. These were the guys, and we didn't have as much media as much back then, but it was exciting. People were talking about that match.
Kind of figuring that there's going to be a clash. There's going to be a showdown at the end.
It was the one weight class that year that everyone was like, who's going to win? I'd seen Jake wrestle. I knew that he shot singles. He came up out the back, which kind of leads into our wheelhouse.
I watched Jake Herbert against Mark Perry in the Big Ten Finals. What he's doing is so basic. It's steps 1 and 2. It's steps 1, 2, and 3. I'm at step freaking 7. I remember sitting in the office watching that tape. Holy shit, he's gonna scramble with me. He's really gonna try to scramble with me. He's dead. Like at that moment, I knew he's dead. Oh yeah. Boom.
Is this one you come up through it, or do you come up the side?
I don't know. They'll do it at 4:30. We'll see. I appreciate you being here. Hopefully Amir Khan gets his energy. I mean, he's 23. A 23-year-old has no excuse for being low energy.
23 against a 40-year-old.
That's a large gap, you know. Pang's back in there after getting poked in the eye.
The Brazilian champion, his name, I asked a Brazilian what it was, and they said it's Little Monkey.
Come on.
Yeah, I swear, that's a terrible nickname.
In Oklahoma City, it's our 3rd time Ben makes the finals. We had lost the 2 previous, and we had brought the bus that we traveled down on. We're on the bus. I remember it was Coach Horton, probably Coach Pritz. Everybody's on the bus or whatever, and we're heading over to the arena. And I'm sitting there, and I'm probably a little bit looking nervous, and just thinking about, we got to do this. This is big, you know, and all the Hodge stuff. That I wasn't really concentrating on that. I was concentrating on, man, I know we've prepared Ben for this. I know he's prepared. He's dominated this season. He really hadn't had a close match. But this is it. This is the showcase match. This is it. And we didn't want to lose this. And crazy thoughts like that. I look over and across the way, because it was like this, it was a rock star bus, what we used to call it, with the couches facing each other and the beds in the back. And Ben is picking his hair out. And his hair must have been out to here, and he's laughing and goofing off. And I'm like, and I'm looking at him probably with these crazy eyes, like, what the hell are you doing? Will you get serious? Because I had that look and would say it sometimes, but I didn't have to say it. He's like, Coach, I got this.
The experience of wrestling Ben, it's completely different than you think. If you wake up with it and you say, I'm gonna have a crappy day, and you stub your toe, and it escalates from there, right? Your girlfriend leaves you, it's like a crappy day into the worst thing that can happen.
You would walk off a mat with him, you'd see people crawl off the mat with him, the way he put them in positions and wore them out.
When I watched the match and Herbert was trying to wrestle with Ben in those positions, I was like, you're playing with fire, because he's gonna get you.
Jake thinks he can out-scramble me. Jake's not scared. Jake's gonna attack me. And I know that's gonna play in my favor.
He's in on his leg, he got to my leg somehow, I'm on my back, and then the ref starts going 1,001, 1,002, and I'm like, oh crap, I just gave him a takedown and back points. Now I'm losing, and I gotta try to play catch up, and you're trying to play catch up against a scramble master, and you gotta take more risk, and he's capitalizing on those risks. I couldn't believe how tired I got, and how fast I got tired.
I couldn't be more comfortable in these scrambles because this is what we've been doing in the room. This is how I've been wrestling every single day, and I know other people haven't.
He just started to flow, and it just happened, and it was over.
All right, well, that's a crappy first period. Just gave up. In the same scramble that I didn't understand because I've never been in it, I've never drilled it, I've never seen it before.
And I'm on top, I'm riding him. There's another scramble, and I catch him in this Peterson.
There wasn't any standing around and just waiting and poking. It was go, 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 scramble, scramble, move. It was like almost like a 7-minute scramble fest. holy crap, we're only 3 minutes done and I feel exhausted already and I'm behind. What do I got to do different?
He doesn't really want to shoot anymore because obviously now bad things have happened every time he shot.
When I was wrestling with Ben, what I noticed in that match is every time I would get to his leg, he would start attacking my leg. He'd either isolate one of my feet or legs, get it out of the mat, or get both my feet together and out of the mat and immobilize it. So by taking my legs out of the equation, you know, I lose half my power, if not more of my power.
He's flowing into all my scrambles, right? And I remember even in the second period, I hit this beautiful double ankle scramble where I roll through, and while I'm rolling, I cross his ankles up and come on top of him, and I have his ankles crossed across his ass, and I come up behind him, and I'm sitting on his ankles, so both his ankles are trapped. He can't move.
The moment when Ben got both my legs together in the national finals, solidified his last takedown, was up by 14-2 at that point. It sucked.
People probably thought I had no idea how that happened, and that was the first time that had ever happened in my life, when in actuality that was a very practiced scramble, something I did very often.
After you're losing 7-2, 9-2, it just became a trying to catch up game, and you're not getting that on Ben. So it ended up losing 14-2.
Very, very dominant win that I think very, very few people would have predicted.
When Ben beat Herbert, it definitely sent a message that I am not only really good, I'm special.
It's not only a validation of all the hard work that I've put in, but it's a validation of this system that I'm developing because I hit Jake in all these scrambles in the finals.
It was not only special for Ben, it was special for our program. We did what people told him he wouldn't do, become that first. People wearing wigs and things like that just how special it was that he brought people to want to be a part of Mizzou wrestling and what we were about.
We knew now we were doing something that no one else was doing, and I had just proved that it worked.
Ben pretty much shut everybody up because, you know, hey, I'm here and this is real. And my name is Ben Askren.
People coming to camps and videotaping him and watching him drill and wrestle, and that's the great thing of our sport. They want to keep evolving, so of course people started to evolve. I saw it happen in our practice room, and it made our room better. You watched our room became better scramblers, our room became better cradlers. It was amazing what happened, how the evolution of our program, that was a big part of it.
So I'm giving these young recruits all these answers to what I'm doing, you know, the Raymond Jordan, the Michael Chandler, the Max Askren.
With Ben and I, we were very fortunate to have each other because it became a game between us.
I'm giving these guys answers, and so what that's forcing me to do then is now make the next question, right?
I think what really sold us on him being really successful at what he's doing is he was doing it against everyone. You know, guys that, oh, I'm not sure he's going to be able to do it against so-and-so. Well, he just did it.
There's still so many people out there, to this day, that believe that funk is terrible, or funk is only for certain types of people, or funk is only for certain types of athletes or body styles.
Probably a lot of coaches just were like, this isn't sound wrestling. The things he's doing, you know, it's not going to work on the best.
Why is he doing that? It's just bad habits. And then he would just continue to torch people. Keep saying whatever you want and call it garbage, but he's taking the wrestling world by storm with it.
And he had that his whole career. And then of course he goes on and wins 2 national titles. He was in the finals the first 2 years. And then of course he can't make the Olympic team and this and that because that stuff isn't gonna work. Next thing I know, Ben's in the back room, you know, in the room every day working on sprawling and good positioning, and he's making the Olympic team and winning a match out there at the Olympics.
All right, Ben, you didn't have the Olympics you wanted. What happened versus the Cuban?
I really felt if I would have won that first period, I would have had a much better chance to win the match. You know, lots of things I've been thinking about, but you can't go back on what you did.
I think it's a loss, and it's a loss to the wrestling community, Ben not continuing and doing it. And I think it's a loss you see a lot, and it's something that wrestling's really struggling with, because what are you going to do? You know, the money's not there, the support's not there. It's something that we as a sport really need to try to figure that out. You can't be as funky in freestyle. If you expose, you're giving up points. So it didn't transition for him as well. I mean, he still was able to make an Olympic team. Ben had a lot of untapped potential in the freestyle world that he didn't explore because he didn't put the time in on it. But you got to train that specific style, and you got to, know what that is. He only had a full year of doing it, which is enough to leapfrog, the United States to being #1 in the nation. But that wasn't enough to take him to #1 in the world.
Foot fire, hard!
I remember the Olympic team and coming to work, coming to the room and working every day, and I didn't have a lot of interaction with him. But the one thing that I would always say to him was stay, follow your heart. How good could have he been as good as he wanted to be? And that's the part that would have been, cool to see.
When Ben decided, that he was done kind of wrestling and was going to do other things, I kind of was upset a little bit, because I really thought that we need a little messenger to come along and kick us in the butt and let us know that you're doing great, but it can be better. So I think if he got back in it now, I think he'd be right at the top.
Where do you go from here? I'm not sure yet. I got 4 more days in Beijing. I don't want to go home. I'm sick of Beijing. Didn't get what I wanted here. I think there's a good chance I'll be fighting soon. I think the only for sure is that I'll be in Colombia for 2 more years.
So I remember after the Olympics, hearing about fighting and having a potential career in fighting came up.
For me, part of the decision to fight would have been economic. You make a lot more money fighting than you can wrestling, especially in that time period. Wrestlers are making nothing. But part of me did just want to try MMA to see if I can be the best at it.
When he stopped wrestling and got into fighting, and we knew he was going to get into fighting, I didn't know, because I was kind of like everybody else, like, what if he gets hit and blah, blah, blah. Obviously we know if he gets his hands on him.
I think it's a pattern that develops, it's like he starts getting into it, and they figure out a way to make it work. Was it pretty? No.
Once again, he put that mind to the fighting world, and and just and became a ninja.
A lot of my success, I could say, could be attributed to innovating, adapting, thinking about what needs to be done, right? In MMA, it was super easy to innovate and create and do new scenarios. If I go to a new MMA gym or a new jiu-jitsu place where they're training MMA, when I do some of my folk style wrestling techniques on top, they're still like, what are you doing? People say I'm a terrible striker. I almost never get hit. I mean, literally, like if you count how many standing strikes to the head I've taken in my last 5 fights or 10 fights, part of striking is not being hit, right? And I don't get hit.
Well, he still can't punch, but he has never lost. He takes all the things that people say he can't do and finds out what he can do. And he makes that become about his personality and the way he's going to do things.
I'm gonna shoot this out there, grab it. Okay.
Ben Askren, ladies and gentlemen. Dude, I've talked about you on this podcast at least a dozen times. You are the #1 guy that I'm most disappointed never fought in the UFC.
Yeah, I always get, whenever you talk about me, I get like 15 texts like, hey, Joe's talking about you now, and they'll send me clips or whatever, so obviously appreciate that. But yeah, I never really got to fight those top guys, and it was for reasons beyond my control.
When the first negotiations went south, what was that, 2013, it was just Bellator and the UFC. That was all there was.
Let's go.
So for a while, it's like, how did that not work out? Like, in what parallel universe
Am I 12-0, ranked 7th in the world, former Olympian, and I didn't get what I wanted here? I think he didn't like me, he being Dana didn't like me. He said it's impossible to drug test. I said that's a lie. USADA does it all over the world for Olympic sports. He didn't really say I was wrong. He just started calling me a whole bunch of names.
I just want to know what you're going to do.
I think they also knew that I was kind of headstrong and I couldn't really be bullied too much. I think that had something to do with it. I don't think they liked my fighting style. So there's a whole bunch of, things that I think kind of played together as to why they didn't sign me at that point in time. Some people could say that's a negative part of my personality. If I would have been a little more subservient, maybe I would have gotten a few more opportunities a little earlier in my life. But it's like, well, if that's what I have to do to get those opportunities, do I really want those opportunities? Do I need to cater to people and kiss people's butt to get those opportunities? If I can't get them on my own merit, on doing what I should be doing, then is it an opportunity worth grasping? You know it. People want the fun.
Versus legend, our main event here in Singapore. One championship, Immortal Pursuit. And you see Askren pursuing Aoki, lands a right hand, drills a knee. Aoki jumps the guard early. Aoki loves to be off his back. Bentley slams him here.
Ben's picking up, going for a can opener from the guard, the mounted guard. Oh!
Slams him down. Boom, shakalaka. And a big right hand from Askren.
This is what the world has been waiting to see. The jiu-jitsu of the master Shinya Aoki. How is he going to handle in the top game of Ben Askren?
Here's the ground. Oh, he's hurt. Bones. Good night. Ben Askren goes from champion to legend.
Ladies and gentlemen, your referee, Mr. Olivier Coste, has put a stop to this contest after 57 seconds in the first round. For your winner, by way of referee stoppage due to strikes, and still one welterweight world champion, Ben Askren.
I haven't thanked anyone ever, Mitch. I've had 18 fights. I haven't thanked anybody. I usually spend this time calling someone out, but I can't call anyone out because I'm retiring. So.
Did you watch me beat up that mean tiger? Haha, thank you. It's a good one. Alex, what? I did, and it's a new one, and it's really cool and smooth. It's not so sharp, it's way thicker. Josh got hit on. He's like, where's she at? I never got hit on very like that. There's everybody. Yeah, I said, I don't want to say I'm done, period. I said I'm done, excluding the fact that I get to fight and prove I'm number one. That would be the excluding factor.
So if you could get in the UFC, you'd be willing to do it again?
I mean, I don't care where it is.
If he grabs my head here, see how I go here, snap, boom, or like I said, yeah, back takeoff. This, yeah.
You want me to go snap like
yeah,
like that?
Yep.
How did this UFC contract come about? When did you first get somebody first talk to you? What did you think?
Sure. Well, when I retired in November, obviously I said I'm retired unless I get the opportunity to fight. To
prove I'm the best in the world, meaning fighting just people who are ranked above me. And there's only one place that those people reside at this point in time. So I became friends with Chatri Sitadon, who's the CEO at One Championship over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. One Championship contacted me and said, well, what if we traded you? I said, yeah, I'm good with it, but it kind of sounds ridiculous. Like, it's never happened. It's probably not gonna happen. And called me back 2 weeks later, and they said, hey, you've been traded. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you gotta be lying, right? And they said, no, for Demetrius Johnson, blah, 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 blah. I was blown away. And so then from there, it took a few weeks to get all the paperwork going, and then it took a few more weeks to get the announcement out there. So yeah, it was almost a surreal period in time.
I think that for Ben to have the opportunity in the UFC, I think that's what he's always wanted, and I think things work out.
For me, it was a myriad of emotions. I was totally enjoying my retirement. I was looking forward to wrestling Midland, something I was training for at that point in time. I was doing what I wanted to do in life. And so then it's like, okay, but I get this opportunity that's, this is the last time. I'm not, like, I can wait another 10 years to get this opportunity again, then I'll be way too old, right?
Everyone wants to bring up like Dana White and Ben had beef, but to be honest, Dana White's smart enough to understand when he can make money. It's like you got somebody who's hard to promote, and you got somebody who's easy to promote that hasn't fought a lot of people in your welterweight division.
They pitched Robbie, and that's one of the tougher fights for me. If I genuinely think I'm the best, I got to beat them all up. I want to come back to prove I'm the best. That's why I want to come back, not for any other reason. If I make some money, great, and I'm going to make some money.
It's a recurring thing all the time about people just doubting what he's doing, what level he's going to lose at. You still get the people, he's in the UFC, oh, well, that's not going to work in the UFC, and it's going to.
I don't know how long I'm going to fight in the UFC. I feel like I'm just ready and I'm open, and that's where I'm at right now. I had my life set to what I was going to do. I've now reset my life to be able to focus on training and focus on myself. Kind of just puts a pause. I feel like I was playing a movie. I press pause. I'm going to go do something else for a little bit, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to unpause it, and I'm going to keep on rolling. Head block to reshot, wicked attack, single, double, or high cross, depending on how they come up. I can't really see a way in my future that I'm not involved in wrestling. It's just like, there might be other things I do, because I do have multiple interests, but I can't see a way where wrestling's not at the center. I would envision that, I'm 94 years old and I'm still walking my old ass down to the academy and like watching, who knows, my grandson teach practice, and like telling little Billy, hey Billy, you gotta get a little tougher, that's why you lost that situation.
He might be one of those guys you just put in a slot by himself. I'm not sure you can put a whole lot of people with him.
He had that persona, kind of like magnetic repulsion type thing, but it drew people in and it made people pay attention to what he did. What he did was bring funk from the trenches and kind of gave it notoriety.
It's like the 4-minute mile, right? Once people see a 4-minute mile can be ran, they freaking run it. It's not a big deal.
When Ben started doing these things, I think it started to open up people's imagination, their eyes to, what is this?
I think that Ben's style definitely changed college wrestling without a doubt.
People realize the effectiveness and, more importantly, the necessity of scrambling.
Now you see it's evolved to, it's amazing. Some of the scrambles you see in the sport of wrestling, and it's made the sport better.
He's behind him. McIntosh continues to scramble.
You watch any successful wrestler, they know how to scramble. It's no longer funk, it's science.
I'm here. I made it. I did it my way. No, I mean, there's some serious stuff there.